So what I want us to do is to start becoming more conscious, start choosing things in a better way for ourselves, and start creating a life that's going to gear us to really take advantage of the opportunities that are going to show up for us in the years to come.
This podcast is brought to you by The Integrated Human. We work up, down, inside out to plug yourself into your potential. If you want to see what we are up to and what's next, sign up to our newsletter or follow us on social media. If you like what we are doing, we really appreciate it if you can like our post on social media and YouTube and help us grow.
Good morning, good afternoon, and let's get started. This is the Big and Small Podcast, and I'm Big, aka Jason Shields.
And I'm Marit Gabrielsen, and I'm this tiny one.
Yep. So, how
Yes.
you doing, MTG?
We just had an amazing, and if you're watching YouTube, you see we had our early morning podcast today. It's early in the morning.
Yep.
Usually it's an afternoon podcast. Today is early morning. We had a wonderful meditation weekend. This weekend.
I loved it.
That was
Life-changing for
different.
very many people.
Yeah, and it was so rewarding in the way that, you can look at people's faces and and they know, and no one has to say anything.
Yeah.
And words can't describe the thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would like people to have out of that, to have that experience.
Yeah.
To know that exists, and to and like when we're working together, you can get deeper into it, which was just amazing. And we had walking meditations and drumming meditations and sitting meditations. Now it was really, really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that actually takes me back to the old days when I was doing a lot of Vipassana meditation, and I was with some people who were trying to explain, this experience that you have when you transcend and you go deep, and it's, words really can't capture it, right? But you understand that when English is not your first language, sometimes you use a word that's kind of like the second cousin of the word that you really would like to use. Mm-hmm. So indescribable is the experience of this transcendence, because it's beyond the mind, it's beyond actually even the emotions, it's beyond the body. It's a whole nother level of perspective in your life. It's like
You know exactly where you were until you try to explain it.
until you try to explain it. So they were trying to write this thing on their website. You come in and we're deep in the forest, and you have, and what they wrote was not indescribable but unmentionable, and unmentionable
Is the one you should not say.
you shouldn't say.
It's kind of like Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly. Unmentionable. It's like, you don't say Voldemort's name because he's going to show up and kill your family. It's like the unspeakable, unmentionable. You when you're using that, it sounds like you're
cute.
eating children in the forest or something like that. It's really bad.
Oh,
it's
that's cute.
super bad. And I'm like, okay, guys, and they gave me some resistance. They're like, how dare you come here and try to micromanage our lives? And I'm like, do you want them to think that you're doing something wonderful for the world and yourselves? Or would you like to think that you're a criminal? And they're like, not a criminal. Right?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, right. So sometimes the details matter, and that's why being super zenned out combined with being planted on the earth and getting your stuff done is very important, right?
Yes.
Understanding what you're actually doing in the world. And that's what real meditation is. Performance meditation, like the Navy SEALs, like the NFL, like the NBA, like high-performing business people, and like us, our meditations are geared towards making you more functional.
We are. What I liked really much about this weekend was we changed it a bit from last time. Mm-hmm. It's all about evolving.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing as well. We're not better than others. We do the same. Mm-hmm. So what I liked this time was that we got more of a sharing experience, and you share what you want, and you don't share what you don't want, and whatever it is, that's perfect for what it is. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
But it was very nice the way people could, like, I don't like what I like when we meditate together like this is that we have a meditation practice, a self-development practice. It's not just, no, we're going to sit, we have transcendence, and I'm not going to do anything with it. We're trying to figure a way to work with it. First, you need to get it. And then you start having processes with it. So you actually can evolve, and not that just going there is nice. It is.
Getting that bus ticket's quite like winning the lottery to start with.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
But
how do you bring it into your life?
how do you bring it into your life? How do you actually use that feeling so you actually can have that with you some moments during the day or the whole day when you get advanced?
Yeah.
Instead of having to have the yoga blanket, the Zen music, the yogi tea, the quiet, the forest, to be able to get it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I like with what we're doing. And so we're having a new one in September. 10th to 11th of September, we're having a new weekend.
Get on it. Each one's been sold out, guys. You got to get on it.
So I'm going to put, you have the description of the podcast. I'm going to put the link there so you can get your ticket if you want to join. I would highly recommend it, of course. But it was really nice. And it was so nice because we had people that had been meditating for 60 years.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we have a guy that have never meditated.
Yeah.
So the age span was from 20 to 86.
Yep, that's
I
right.
believe. And we had men, female, it was so spread out in who we are.
The demographic was
yes.
very varied. Yeah.
And that kind
Extremely
of bring the
varied.
group together.
Yeah.
It's not that here we all female, here we all men, here we all athletes. No, we were different places in our life, different physical states. Everything was just built in together. So it was a really, really nice group.
And this is an interesting thing. I had one of my friends and associates visit me yesterday. She came in and said hi to me and Marit. And she's been a lot in northern Norway. So shout out to Kristina. It's great to see. Whoop, whoop. And she sent me a link, and there was this lady who was talking about different meditation techniques and how even that is male dominated because it's very much the mind. You're going to think yourself happy. You're going to think yourself, it's head, and not taking any consideration to the heart or the emotions and the emotional process. The way we approach meditation is beyond the mind, beyond the emotions, beyond the body. So it's not that. It's not, she really brought my attention to the fact that many of the traditional methods for enlightenment, for self-development, are very male yogi based in a way. Because to be quite honest with you, if you're going to ask a woman or a man, or you're going to evaluate men or women who needs more evolution in their everyday, probably actually men. And not only that, but having children, which many women do, not all women, of course, is an evolutionary process in itself, because you have to put yourself a little bit to the side and get perspective in order to be a great mom. And women have that evolutionary push to be better so that they can be better for their kids. Men, not always. And, it's like one of my professors said in sociology one time. He said that, it's very seldom that you'll see a woman walk away from her children. You'll see men do it all the time. But women, that's, if a mama does that, then she's sick. That's just, and, it's almost normal for men to kind of run the range, but biologically, but women don't do that. They follow their kids. I was talking about that really old lady who had finally relaxed, and I'm like, why are you relaxing? It's great to see, but why are you? Oh, because my little girl, my baby girl is finally in the old person's home, and I know she's going to be safe now and taken care of. And I'm like, what? She's like in her upper 70s, early 80s, and the daughter.
Yeah, the daughter.
The daughter. The mom's almost 100 years old, and finally she can relax, right, as a mom.
And then we're going 70 years with high shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there's a whole process of being an integrated person in a social setting that women have that men just don't necessarily have, you know. So it's so I understand there. So what Christina brought to me was correct in very many ways, but there is a difference between what we're doing and that traditional path there of knowledge and crunching names of different Hindu gods and
No, it's like I said, it's beyond everything, and what it has helped me with a lot is to get the perspective.
that's it.
Like we say, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, and you're not your body. But that's very difficult to understand if you don't get perspective, and that's what that transcendence does, and that's what we are working with, and that's why I say we don't just go into the state and just stay there and leave. We use the state to improve our everyday life, whatever your improvement is. If that's being calm with when you work in a kindergarten with a lot of rugrats running around and pulling each other's hair, or if it's running to a patient in a hospital, stuff like that. So that's why I find it's important, so you can hold yourself calm.
Yeah, that's it.
In a very stressful situation. So I would say it was a very successful weekend.
It was, and just to give you guys a little bit of a perspective here, if you are stuck in your head, then you are a victim of your thoughts. If you're stuck in your emotional field, you are a victim of your emotions, because you can never be untouched by something that you're in the middle of. You're in the middle of the mud, you're going to get dirty. That's the way it is. And the only way for you really to use your mind and not become a victim, use your emotions, not become a victim, and use your body and not become a victim, is to transcend them, meaning that your perspective is from somewhere outside them.
Just like you said, it's easier to look at, like all of us, look at your friends and just, you will be able to say, if they did this, their life will be better.
Yeah.
If they did that, their life will be better. If you have kids, you're definitely going to say, if they just made that choice, their life going to be so much better.
Exactly.
But that's perspective you can get on yourself.
That's right.
So instead of having people kind of being down on you and saying, if you change this, your life would be better, you could do that to yourself.
Yeah, it's much easier to get a perspective.
And it goes much more quicker.
That's right. And I'll give you a concrete example of this in a minute, if I can talk about myself afterwards. A little bit.
Of course, it's our podcast. Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, but if you put your nose in a book, in the middle of a book, it's really hard to read the pages. But if you can pull it out, a little bit, considering I'm a little bit nearsighted, so I don't have to pull it away too far. but then it's much easier to read. And the same thing with ourselves. Wanted to share with our listeners a little bit of the process that I've been going through with my body lately, because this is very interesting, how to deal with things. So when you have been on the planet for a while and you started working with yourself, it's not that you stop having pain. It's not that you stop having emotions. It's not that you stop having thoughts.
That's not the goal.
That's not the point. The point is to be able to work with them better, and also to be able to let go. So, like I've talked about before, in our range of emotions, all of our emotions are actually present at all times, but we are very focused on one for a period. So let's say that I'm super happy. I just got a promotion, whatever, and I'm walking around feeling amazed.
It's sunny
balls.
outside.
It's sunny out. Yeah,
and you just got an ice cream, and
whoop whoop, right?
It's good.
It's good. GOOD in the house, right? But the thing is that, and then something else happens, bam. And then my emotional state changes. But you can imagine, and everybody will agree, that even though I'm walking around with the promotion and the ice cream in my hand, I could actually think or focus on something in my life to make myself sad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
More, I can't say that word. Mortgage.
Like a mortgage,
or the bird that pooped on your car.
Yeah, or that thing that happened to me when I was 7, or whatever.
That person wasn't happy for you because you got your promotion.
Exactly, and everybody's like, well, that's not the same as it being present. Yes, it is, because you can actually create a kinship with any vibration you like. The opposite, though, is also true. So if I'm feeling shitty and horrible and not great, and I start thinking about that thing that, yeah, I got a promotion, or I'm going to get a promotion in a week, that's pretty amazing. Wow, I've done a lot of good work and I'm being recognized. Man, that's actually pretty cool, right? I could actually start working on those things as well and then create a good feeling inside. So everybody's like, oh, it's easy to make bad feelings, but it's not that easy to make good feelings. Well, that's actually not true for everybody. And if you practice making good feelings, you can make those good feelings inside you. You can find that vibration. That is a secret. And it's not the same as mood making, pretending that you're happy if you're sad. It's about genuinely creating a kinship, a focus on that vibration of happiness.
It's not about fake it till you make it.
No.
It's about actually going through the process of doing it.
Yeah, it's about making it until you can take it.
Yeah.
That's the thing I tell my athletes: make it until you take it, not fake it until
It's a whole
yeah.
Because it's not about thinking, it's about actually pushing that forward, doing it.
Committing to doing that.
Yeah.
And also one other thing, my friends, letting go of the thing that you don't want. And that's what meditation does, because as you transcend, you learn to let go. Let go of a thought that's hammering you. Let go of an emotion that's hammering you. Let go of pain. I had one of my high-level athletes that was in the group, and she has a hip injury that she was dealing with for a long time. And it's actually, comes and goes a little bit now, but it's like minimal compared to what it was. This is a fantastic human being working on herself all the time. Amazing performance person. I mean, career and family and the whole thing. I mean, she's super. She's like a superwoman. And she had this pain come back up. And when that pain comes up, all of the fear and all of the lack of function and all this stuff comes back up as well. It's very difficult to deal with. And the process is first acknowledge the pain. Okay? Now, my beautiful people, please listen to this. I'll give you an example of myself personally afterwards. I'm using her, then me, and then I want you to use you. You first acknowledge the fact that you're having pain. Then you accept the fact that you have pain. Then you remind yourself that that pain is not the only thing that you're feeling in your body, because that's just the hip.
How does your neck feel like?
How's my neck?
Left arm.
Exactly.
Your chest.
Exactly. Which
your
means
left toe.
You're expanding your awareness, making sure that you realize that what you're feeling as the negative thing, because evolutionarily, your body's going to want to push you in the direction of paying attention to the critical thing, the active ingredient of your misery, which is at that moment the hip. Okay? So then you take a step back and you realize that my body is very well. I have some pain in my hip. And because I'm well everywhere else, I can easily overcome this thing. So how does your emotional state change when 98% of your whole body is doing very well? It's pretty good, right? And your body then starts creating less stress hormones and more positive chemicals that then help your healing. So that's the physiological aspect of it. But the psychological aspect of it is realizing that, number one, you're more than just your pain. Number two, your life is not completely wrecked because you have this pain. And yes, it's scary as hell. And you may be even getting panic and all kinds of stuff, which I have been experiencing the last couple of days. So I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you're able to make better decisions for yourself once you have some perspective. That's it. And then suddenly, weirdly enough, your body lets go of it. How do I know? Because that's what happens. Because your body's like, oh, okay, we do have more things to think about than this. And I'm not dying, so this is not the critical thing. And this is not the active ingredient of my suffering right now. And we can keep moving.
I think when you explained it to me once, we used a picture of a pen. Mm-hmm. So if you take a pen and you hold it, I have a pen in my hand here because it's better to explain and do at the same time. You said like if you hold a pen and you're really gonna hold it, so your knuckles get white.
Yeah.
You start to cramp up in your arm, and it's really difficult to focus on anything else than this pen. And I'm holding it because you said hold the pen. I'm holding with everything I have, and then you said, "Yeah, but relax your hand," and I did. I said, "Yeah, but you're still holding the pen, aren't you?" Yeah, but I'm much more relaxed in my whole body. I can actually, if someone had came in, I can talk to them, still holding the pen. And that's kind of I'm doing my job and acknowledging the pen and knowing the pen is in my hand, but I'm not focusing on it.
Exactly.
I don't have to strain my whole body and attention and emotional aspect on holding that pen because you get tired of holding it like that.
Exactly.
So if you hold the focus on the hip, it's much more harder than if you acknowledge the hip.
Yeah.
And it's there. The pen is in your hand.
Exactly. And when you're really holding the pen, you're putting all of your force and all of your resistance into it.
So
it becomes the whole world becomes your only focus.
It becomes all the focus, and it's so painful.
Yeah.
Because your knuckles start to you get the sweat in your hand. And like my hand I now can hold it with 2 fingers all of a sudden because it's not that stressful.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still holding it,
Exactly.
but it's kind of that thing of letting go. Doesn't mean that you do this.
Yeah.
And if you had, I drop the pen.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you throw it away or does not acknowledge it.
No, you still relate to it.
You still relate to it. You still hold it somehow, but you have letting go of the stress and pain and thoughts and mind and heart to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, that helped to have that picture that it's not about ignoring it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about acknowledging, hold the pen, but how can you hold the pen?
How can you hold it, right? That's it.
So how can you sit with the hip pain without sitting with the hip pain?
Yes, and your whole life is about the hip pain.
And then,
Exactly. Well said, and that's.
Well, you said
correct.
it to me, so
Well,
I took it further.
That you remember, that you listen to what I say.
I do remember
amazing.
stuff.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, it's and if you want to try this at work or in your private life, it's amazing. I do this all the time in my martial arts. If you ask a person, okay, put up your hands, like in front of them like this, with their palms facing you, and you put your hands on them and you push in a little bit, what do you think they're going to do?
They start pushing back.
They're going to push back and they're going to push back at least as hard as you're pushing. And then you look at them and you say, I didn't tell you to push back, did I? And then everybody realizes that no matter what impulses come in, our first response, if we haven't worked on ourselves, is to meet that force and actually fight the force. And think, if you're having to resist absolutely positively every little thing that comes to you and you're fighting the world, and instead of relaxing and allowing things to flow to you and then picking the things that you're going to respond to, you're just reacting to every fucking thing that comes into your environment, and everything's got to be pushed against and held like crazy and stressed with. Then, man, you're going to get tired. It is a hard day. It's a long day, right?
Oh, yeah.
It is. So I got an injury, right?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. I was preparing for the World Championship. I was, tipped by a colleague who's really into athletics to try a new kind of training to increase my explosiveness. Now, to start with, I'm probably one of the most explosive guys in my whole division. There's probably nobody who's a lot stronger than me. If they're stronger than me, then my technique is so good that it's not significant. So this was not a necessary training for me, just so it's said, okay?
In retrospective.
In retrospective. Kids, do not try this at home. But I was gearing myself up. I was super focused, and I was actually making the World Championship my focus, which means that I didn't have that holistic view of my whole life, did I?
No, because you channel one thing and nothing else matter.
Yeah.
You don't. That's the issue with it. With total focus, that's why you should have a peer group.
Yes.
They can help you to say, nah.
Yeah.
In retrospective, we do that next time.
Yeah. I'm never doing this kind of training again. But, I'm strong. I've always been pretty strong, but I'm really explosive, very quick, and have a good jump, good power, and I just wanted to top off my explosive power and really activate my body. And to be quite honest, a little bit of a psychological edge, because I know if I can do that, then I can just pick everybody up and throw them into the stands if I need to. It's insane. So I put 230 kilos on a heck bar. 230 kilos, that's like, I don't know, almost 500 pounds.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like what, 470 or something like that. It's 475, something like that. It's heavy. Okay. And I grab it and I explode up. I jump up with it. So I'm doing explosive jumps with that weight to activate my body. And what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to release the weights when I'm at the top of the jump, and then I land. But what I did was I exploded up and I landed with it in my hands. And the first time it went really good. My goal was to have 3 sets of 3 jumps, and that was going to be it. So I grab it again and I explode up. And when I land, something happens. My left foot rotates out to take the pressure off my knee, take the pressure off my left side. I don't know what. And something happens. Now, I have an old injury in the cartilage in my hip from my karate days, okay? Because in my division, I'm quite heavy, and I was kicking very high to be able to hit somebody or kick somebody in the face. These guys were like, 6'6" plus, they're like 190 to 2 meters plus, because I'm really long and thin, many of them that are competing at high levels. So I was having to kick really high and probably kicking higher than what my flexibility allowed. I now know that I have a genetic, an alternative shape of my hip, which meant that I was grinding down the cartilage, which is not very healthy. But that was before I was awake and a chiropractor. And I thought that it was like an irritation of this injury. But it turned out that I had fractured my hip. I'd fractured the neck of my femur. And I went to the world championship, and the muscles of my hip were so strong that it actually tightened. I was like really tight in my hip. I went there and I won my first fight 7-0. My second fight, I lost on a ref's decision. And the whole time I was like, wow, my body just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. But I didn't know it was a fracture. So I came back and I was training wrestling for 3 months and noticed that people were actually able to get to my legs and take me down, which never happened before, really, actually. So I was in training and I was like, man, this is so crazy. So I just decided they're not going to do it. I'm thinking maybe I'm older, I'm losing a step. What I'd done is lost my hip. I didn't know that. So what then happened was I used my mental, emotional focus to override my body. And then suddenly my wrestling was back on par again. So I thought, I'm good. And then we went to the European Championship, and I felt that I wasn't ready to compete, so I didn't compete. And then afterwards, we were going to go to a celebration after all of my great athletes had competed. And the muscles that we had to walk really far.
And you walked with some long-legged people.
Yeah. Some people who were very tall and fast, and they were walking fast and hard. And finally, the muscles just gave up, and my hip got destabilized. And then I realized that there's something really wrong. So I came back and took an MR of my hip, and it turned out that it was fractured. I got the message that it was fractured, and then we waited 9-10 days and took another CT. I was walking on crutches to see if it would heal. And then the large fracture healed, but there's still a stress fracture in there. But stress fractures are strange because stress fractures in the hip generally come in female marathon runners who are so thin that they basically lose their muscle mass because their muscle mass and their bone density, their body eats itself, and they get osteoporosis in their hips from this, and they got the fracture. They get the fracture, and the only thing you can do is really put screws in there and stabilize it. And then, of course, change their diet and reduce their training, all that, and they get well. Well, because I'm not female and because I'm not a marathon runner, the radiologist didn't really see that, okay, this could be that stress fracture. So he basically said, okay, now you're healthy. So me and the amazing MTG have been rehabilitating my hip for
2 years now.
2 years. And it's constantly a little bit better, but didn't get well, right? So we took another MR of it, and it turns out that I still have that fracture. So tomorrow I'm going into the orthopedist to get this checked out. Now, understanding that I've always been quote unquote bulletproof. I've always been unstoppable physically. I've never had any issues at all. Nothing. Because in general, I'm in pretty good balance of mind, heart, and body. And my body genetically is excellent. So, and I've taken care of it. So for me then to face the fact that, okay, now I have an injury
It's not healing.
that's not healing, which means that it's possible for us to get all kinds of weird stuff. Meaning, are they going to give me the recommendation for a hip prosthesis? Are they going to change my hip out? Or are they just going to put the screws that I'd like them to put in to stabilize? Where have we come with the hip? Because when you have constant inflammation over a long period of time, the bone can rot away. You can have issues with degeneration in the joint. You can have long-lasting problems. And I've had this now for 3 years and been trying to rehabilitate, but also train because I have athletes that I'm responsible for. So there's been a lot of things. So that's a long story to tell you about my process of dealing with massive physical, emotional, and mental panic. And you're like, well, what do you mean physical, mental, and isn't it just an emotion? No, it's not. Sometimes your body, just like if you snap, your body has instincts, protective instincts, right? So if you, for example, have a person who's brain dead and you cover their mouth and they can't breathe, the body will try to defend it. Shock will go through the body. It will try to move it away so it can breathe. So there is a body-based panic, and that triggers your emotions and triggers your thoughts, right? And of course, all of the worst thoughts come up when you're in a negative state, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the first rule? Acknowledge, I am having a state of panic. First, recognize and acknowledge. Then accept the fact that you're having it. Then do what, my friends? Know that that's not the only possible emotion or state you could have right now. Then try to get some perspective so that you can start working on allowing that, but not allow it to be the only feeling that you're having right then. One of those things is knowing that it won't last forever. And then reorientating yourself in your life. Because if you're having depression, sadness, anger, panic, because we could also be saying happiness, joy, love, any emotion that you're completely enveloped by, is that going to, if that's the only thing in your life right then, is it going to color the way you do your job? Is it going to color the way you share with your friends? Is it going to color the way you relate to your family? Of course. But if it's just one of many feelings, then you have many more keys to play on. Piano analogy, right? So understanding that you have a whole piano inside, that you can choose to be comfortable with panic, especially if it's not the only thing happening inside you. And that's how I work with the emotions, because evolving yourself and becoming enlightened or doing self-work doesn't mean that you'll never have any suffering. You never have any pain, hopefully with as little suffering as possible.
Get less and less suffering.
Less and less suffering. It's not that you'll never have a dark emotion or an inward going emotion or anything.
You'll never do a bad evaluation or have a reaction. I think that many people think that, but that means that you don't have reactions. Nah, you do them. But
they're very quick.
You're very quick.
And
Instead
you're
of
finished quickly.
you use the emotions come up. It depends, of course. But say it takes, if it's very heavy, it can take an hour to digest and transform. It can take a second. While if you're not, it can take 20 years.
It can take 20 years and dominate your life and ruin you.
Or that one thing threw you off and you're living in that for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
A traumatic episode happened when you were 20 and you live until you're 80, but you never got out of it. You're living in that moment.
Yeah, you're living in that moment. You're carrying it around with you, and you're almost fantasizing that every moment after that is that moment.
Yes.
Think about that. If you're carrying that negative emotion with you, that reaction pattern with you, you're somewhere pretending that every single moment that follows is the same moment. Oh, everybody's looking at me like this, or oh, it's always like this for me, or this. And that's not the case at all. So being able to digest my emotional state and to be able to expand and get perspective, those are the tools that I got through meditation, my friends. And that's why you need to do it. Join us on our next event so you can handle your body, mind, and your heart in a better way. That's how I've learned to deal with these things. So my reactions to things sometimes last a millisecond, and then I respond. Respond. So you get hit in the stomach, it hurts and it may knock the air out of you, okay? You can't always avoid the punches to the stomach. You would like to, but there suddenly you get punched in the stomach. It's about how fast you recover and how fast you get perspective so you may avoid the next one. And the fact that you become aware instead of reactive, which means that I'm not constantly looking for the next punch in the stomach. I'm rather resilient and looking for how I can make my life even more wonderful, which might include avoiding the next punch in the stomach. So I just wanted to thank you guys for listening, and for all you wonderful people that were at the course. We love you, and we love all you guys who are listening. Thank you for your wonderful feedback on the podcast.
Like I said, we even got a flower the other day.
Yeah, we did. It was amazing.
She came in and thanked us for what we're doing. And you guys don't understand how much that means.
That means a lot.
It's, we think we of course think we are amazing. And we know what we do works, and we believe in what we're doing. And for us, this is everything. And we can't be more or less than what we are.
That's it.
But when it is something when people you're not having in your life every day, sorry, every day, actually says that what you do matters. That is extremely important.
So take contact with people who make a difference in your life and give them some love.
That could be the lady in the counter at the grocery store. It can be this podcast. It can be
the dentist.
Someone, if you have someone that actually means something in your life that maybe doesn't know that they mean something, let them know sometimes.
That's it. Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you. So remember, you matter. Unless you multiply yourself by the speed of light squared, then you're energy. But if you can't be energy, matter.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you felt we added something to your day and hopefully your life. If you want to learn more, subscribe to our newsletter and find us at integrated-human.com. That is integrated-human.com. Integrated Human on YouTube and other social media platforms. Have a great day and thank you again for listening. Love, light, and upgrade from us at the Integrated Human team.